male birth control. You know, gender equality, guys. Great. Jarring. Amazing. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This week I'm going to be talking about male birth control. So this is something that I've wanted to talk about for ages, but I kind of was like, I don't really feel like I know enough, and maybe people aren't like interested at all, and it's quite detailed and I want to make sure that it's absolutely right. But I'm just going to talk about it today and just kind of be planting the seeds and starting a conversation and seeing how people feel about it all. So I'm going to talk about a couple things. I'm going to talk about kind of why it hasn't really been considered, or like why it's not really a thing yet. I'm going to talk about why I think men should be taking it. I'm going to talk about options that we have currently and options that are being considered for the future. And then I'm going to talk about some of the problems in bringing it to market and why we don't have it yet, and then some of the benefits as to like everyone, why it would be a great thing if we had it. So as I said, I don't know everything and this is not an all-inclusive list, but this is just some of the topics that I've seen come up most frequently in relation to this that I think are really, really interesting to discuss, and I think we could all benefit by knowing them. So let's get started. So in terms of why it hasn't really been considered, so I suppose it's quite well known that the burden of birth control and trying not to get pregnant falls on the woman, and I think, you know, that's for quite obvious reasons. The woman is the one who gets pregnant, so it kind of maybe seems a bit like more obvious for her to take control of that and to stop the pregnancy. So you can see kind of where this has come from. And also I guess like there is kind of a bit more incentive, like if you're the one physically carrying it and you have to literally carry that baby for 9 months, go through all the side effects, there's going to be a little bit more incentive there than the guy who won't end up carrying it ever. So again, you can see logically why this is a thing. And the reason as well why it's maybe a bit more incentivized for the woman to take it is that, like, you know, if there's an unplanned pregnancy and if the guy decides to flee, which happens a lot, again, it's a lot more likely that she'll be not just the one who's after carrying it for the last 9 months, but she'll be the one left with the baby. And again, that's a big incentive. You know, a lot of the time guys do just kind of have the freedom to run off and leave, and women very often don't have that freedom. I mean, they could if they wanted to, but I feel like very little do actually do that. So again, that's a big incentive that, again, men just don't necessarily have the same level of. I suppose one thing to mention as well is that, you know, like a lot of the times, even with female birth control, it diminishes your sexual pleasure and your sex drive, and I suppose that's a big factor in why some men might not want to take this. As we all know, men's sexual pleasure is considered paramount, whereas women's isn't. So that's, I think, one of the bigger reasons as well why male birth control just isn't seen as a big thing. And again, this list isn't all inclusive. There are probably so many other reasons why it hasn't been considered, but these are just some of the ones that I've seen kind of come up most often, and then the ones that kind of make most sense to me. Next up, why I think men should be taking it. Like, I am very passionate about this. I don't agree with female birth control that much, but I think if we're going to be having to take something, I think it should be in equal measures. You know, gender equality, guys. I think one of the most like really fascinating reasons that when I heard this I was like mind blown. If a woman gets pregnant, she's pregnant for 9 months, she can't get pregnant again in that time. So let's say in a year a woman can only have one baby. Whereas in that same year, a man could impregnate an unlimited amount of people. So does it not make more sense to curb the men's activity than the woman's activity? Like, let me repeat. In a year, there's only one baby that she's going to be able to have. One baby, one. But in that same year, he could have literally hundreds of kids. Hundreds. Because he can just go and have sex with whoever he wants. Again, does it not make more sense to curb that, like try and stop that, the hundreds of kids, as opposed to just the one kid? Like, does that not just make more logical sense? I think so. I think it does. And another really good analogy that I heard recently from a guy actually was take the bullets out of the gun as opposed to wearing a bulletproof vest. Like, again, logic. Does that not just make complete sense? I mean, yeah, obviously maybe we should be still be wearing bulletproof vests, but does not make, again, more sense? If you had both options between taking the bullet out of the gun and wearing the bulletproof vest, logically would you not say, okay, well, I suppose it's safer to take the bullet out of the gun, because then you wouldn't even need the bulletproof vest. Whereas if you have the bulletproof vest, you need both options. Whereas if it's just the bullets, if there's no bullets, you don't need the bulletproof vest. So it's not a lot easier to have just kind of one method or one solution as opposed to having the two of them. That just makes complete sense. Like, take the bullets out of the gun. Like, logic. Yeah, amazing. Another reason why I think men should be taking it is that, like, if women end up getting pregnant, things like abortions. If you don't want the baby, abortions are hard to come by. First of all, they're under threat. There's less and less happening all the time. Well, actually less and less happening legally, more and more happening backstreet. If you do manage to get one, they're super expensive, like horrific, and just the mental turmoil of it. Women's access to reproductive care is constantly under threat, and so that's why I think more men should be getting involved in taking birth control, because that will never be like men's bodily autonomy and right to do whatever they want with their body will never be under threat. Let's just all be clear about that. So I think that's another reason why men should be getting more involved. Again, things like the morning after pill are really hard to get. Obviously in some countries that you can get it over the counter, but a lot of countries you can't. You have to get a GP's appointment. If it's the weekend, you might not be able to get a GP's appointment. If you're underage, you might not feel comfortable going to your GP because they know your parents. Again, it's expensive and it's awkward, and sometimes like even if you go to the pharmacy and get it, like the pharmacy might not want to give it to you, or they ask you more questions and you're already traumatized because you think you're pregnant, and it's just horrific. So again, like just more reasons why men should just be getting involved and using that privilege. One thing that I want to mention as well is if a woman, say, wanted to go ahead and get sterilized, like she wanted to, you know, tie her tubes, or tie her tubes is the main one I think, but you know, if you wanted to go kind of even further and take out your uterus or anything like that, a lot of times doctors won't do that. Like women are very much seen as the reproductive people in our society, and a lot of doctors don't take women's word for it. They don't believe them, shockingly, when they say, I don't want to have kids. People are always like, oh look, you'll change your mind in a few years. This is oftentimes even with women who have endometriosis, whose wombs are literally attacking them from the insides. They won't even take them out in those circumstances. So again, it's just like women's right to do what they want with their body is constantly under threat, so we need men to get involved more. And you know, at least if they can control their body, it helps women by association, right? It's just kind of the logical flow, it helps. And again, I'm not saying that it should just be men who take the burden, but I think if it's going to be people taking a burden on this, it should be both parties. Like that just makes sense, right? Now, so in terms of options that we have right now, extremely limited. Obviously, we have condoms, first of all. Now, obviously, as we all know, condoms are not 100% effective. They're expensive. I think they're really expensive. Like, like a lot of guys don't like wearing them because they think it decreases sexual pleasure. I've heard that from girls as well, that they don't like when the guy wears them, and I get that. But again, that's one of the reasons why people don't like wearing them, and like why they're not like an amazing solution, because guys are like, no, I don't want to wear that. You also hear of guys that punch holes in them to get their wives pregnant or their partners pregnant to like trap them. So dodgy. Or guys that like take them off mid-sex and like don't tell their partner. It happens a lot more than you think. So again, just like it's, yeah, like condoms, like they protect from STIs, which is great, but again, just not a great solution overall. We have the pull-out method. I don't even want to include this because it's not even a method, but I mean, that's something that people think they can do. You know, the woman can say, oh, I don't have to be on the pill. The guy can say, oh, I don't have to wear a condom, we can just pull out. Lads, come on, it doesn't work. It's not a thing. No. So again, this is one of the options that we have. It's not an option. And then we have vasectomy. So I obviously am not a man, don't have a penis, but I am a big fan of vasectomies in theory. You can get them done in a GP's office. You're in and out. Yeah, you're sore for maybe a day or two. They're mostly reversible, so you could do it for a few years and then do back again. And again, that's just taking the bullets out of the gun as opposed to riding bulletproof vest. So I think vasectomies are a great option, but again, not many men are doing them. I think it's just a lack of knowledge really about them. We've talked about women's options for so long that I feel like people just don't really know that that's an option, but it's becoming, I'm seeing it a lot more. I think more men should get involved and consider it. And especially like, I think like, you know, fair enough if you're kind of like before when you've had kids, I get the reservation there, but like if you're done with your family, why not? I think it's amazing. Very simple. It means your wife doesn't have to continue taking birth control for years and years and years until she hits menopause. And even then when you're in menopause, you can still, like you're not really kind of fully out of it for years, so you can still get pregnant even within that time. So again, I think it's just, yeah, vasectomy. Great. Then in terms of options that are being considered, again, these are just a few of them. I'm sure there's way more that I'm not a scientist, I don't know about, but these are just a few of the ones that are being considered. So again, a pill, quite similar to women's ones, contains hormones that, again, I'm not a scientist, but stops either maybe the production of sperm, or it stops the sperm being able to swim or like reach, say if it was to get in, reach a woman's ovary. Hormonal pill, take it daily. Yeah. Things like an injection, again, we have a women's injection, but they're considering a male injection. Again, might last for a few months, similar to the woman's one. Again, I'm sure hormones kind of job. And then another one is a gel, which I think is really interesting. Apparently, I think you rub it on your shoulders or your arms, and again, kind of like works like hormones. Again, I'm not totally sure how it works, I'm not a scientist, but yeah, a gel. So yeah, that could be really interesting. I think maybe you apply it daily and just kind of put it on and you're woo. And I think it's really interesting to note as well that like male birth control options have been considered since the 1970s, which is, you know, like women's birth control wasn't really talked about much before that. Like obviously with our kind of like, you know, society being kind of more reserved back in the day, you know, women's birth control wasn't even a thing. So like women's birth control wasn't, you know, it hasn't been around that much longer than men's, or it hasn't been kind of a thought process in people's heads that much longer than men's, but it's obviously come so much further because we've placed this burden on women, whereas like men's birth control has been studied for 50 years and like we're still nowhere really with it. So it's really interesting to see that like there has been a conversation and it's just like, why has it not gotten further? So then I think it's really important to talk about, yeah, why it hasn't gotten further. Like what are the problems with bringing it to market, and like even then if it was brought to market, what are the problems then? So huge one, the main one probably, is a lack of will by pharmaceutical companies. They obviously, you know, they work by money and they obviously just don't think that there is a market there. They don't think men will buy it. They don't think it's worth, you know, putting all that investment into research and development and then bringing it to market and then for people not to buy it. So they obviously just don't think that there is a will, and like they're probably not wrong. I mean, like obviously they know, for the most part, I guess, I'm not sure, where the desire is, and like if they're saying if they're not doing anything and they're saying there's no will, there probably isn't. But I think like that's the issue in itself. It's like, why is there no will? And we'll talk about it some more. So yeah, one of those reasons is there has been loads of studies done. There was one done in 2016 that kind of, I got a lot of press around the place, and like it literally was going on for a few days. I think it was the pill that they were testing. It was going on for a few days and the study just stopped. Why? Men had side effects. I think the reason it got so much press is that women all over the world were howling laughing because women have so many side effects, like horrific. I've personally had horrific side effects from being on hormonal birth control, and it was just like, oh my god, it was really like it was like, oh my god, you're stopping the study because men had a few side effects. And it's like, yeah, no one's saying that side effects are good or okay, but like it's like we've been putting up with them for 50 years now, but no one's stopping us taking them. Like, and you're like, it was just jarring. And it was all similar side effects to what women go through, things like acne, things like weight gain, things like mood swings, like, oh my god. But like those aren't even that bad considered to the side effects that women have. And I have a list here because I don't want to be wrong about this. Things like acne, breast pain, nausea or vomiting, headaches, diarrhea, weight gain, dizziness, spotting, so that's when you kind of are, a small bit of blood comes out of your vagina, abdominal pain, fatigue, vaginal infections, oh my god, and even more serious conditions like blood clots is a huge one. If you have a history of blood clots, they won't give you the pill, which can like kill you, and an increased risk for some cancers. So like this is what we're dealing with, and like the men's one was halted over like a bit of acne and a bit of mood swings. Obviously mood swings are horrendous, but like they were just feeling a difference, kind of like, oh, in their mood. Like that's what women literally have to put up with every single day. Another really interesting one to talk about, I think, as well, in talking about if it managed to come to market, why I think it might not be that successful, and that is the fact that a lot of women have expressed concern that even if their husband got a pill and bought it and was meant to take it, that they wouldn't actually trust them to take it. And I think that's really, really interesting. I think for so long women have been the ones who are seen to be doing this, and it's just considered that women are responsible and they take it all the time. I know personally, like one time that I was on it, I was all over the place, and like so many women are all over the place. So like it's kind of understandable that they wouldn't, you know, trust their guys to take it, you know, regularly. It's hard taking something, one thing every day at the same time every day. So that's, I think, like one of the big barriers, that like even if it came out, would there be any significant change for a while? Like I feel like a lot of women would still continue to take their own birth control because they just wouldn't be 100% sure that their partner was taking it, which I totally get. And that's hard, that's difficult to kind of contend with. I suppose that's a matter of like each individual couple and just kind of men's attitudes towards it in general. If men trust that it's going to work, then they might take it more often, whereas if it's kind of a new thing, men trust, well, this might not even work even if I do take it all the time, therefore I'm not going to bother. And so all these things. But I think it's an interesting one to talk about. I think another reason why there's kind of been problems bringing it to the market and why it's not really considered a thing is that, like, because women are the ones who get pregnant, so many services are directed towards women, and just their anatomy in general that kind of leave men out. It's just not really seen as their arena to get involved in. So things like sexual health clinics focus a lot on women, and like obstetricians and family planning services are a lot involved with women and her fertility and her ability to get pregnant. And there's kind of seems to be, you know, like a lack of funding for men's role in this area, and kind of like a lot of female staff again who can't necessarily relate to men and their sexual goings-ons, and again just kind of a lack of training in what they do and like what they need to be able to practice safe sex and not get pregnant accidentally. And yeah, just kind of lack of awareness really, and that's like everyone is to blame for that, I guess. Like we all need to play a part in educating people and like just making this more of a conversation. But like I think it's really interesting, like a lot of men have expressed that they would take it if something was available. Like I, a few months ago, did like a Q&A thing on my Instagram, and like a lot of guys replied very favourably. They were like, yeah, I would take it. But a lot of them, and they're rightly so, said that I would take it, but not if it had all the side effects that women's birth control does. I'm like, that's a completely fair thing to say. I mean, like, I personally am not on anything, and I'm not on it because it messes with me and it's horrific. So I totally understand men that say, well, I don't want to take something that's going to mess with me. I get it. I mean, I'm right there with you. That's just even more incentive though to make something that's right and that doesn't mess with people. Like, because like there is desire there. Like men are willing to get involved and help out and share that burden. But I mean, like it needs to be something that won't completely mess up their lives, which is understandable. So yeah, it just needs to be good and made like not to mess with people. And yeah, then like on that, I mean, I think it can only be a good thing. Making male birth control, good male birth control, has benefits for everyone. If men are seen to be having side effects, like that could be a good thing for women. Like then people might say, oh god, well maybe women are having these side effects, like we are. You know, maybe we should improve women's birth control if we're here improving men's birth control. Like that could be an amazing opportunity for us. If men are taking it, women won't have to go through like the literal trauma of taking it. I mean, like there are so many benefits to men getting involved with this. I think it will also help normalize birth control. Like there is still so much stigma around women who take the pill. Like they're seen as, it's very slut shamey. It's very like, oh, but sure, why would you want to be doing that? Like it's not like you're, you know, like there's still so much stigma around it in so many countries all over the world. So I think like if men were taking it, it would just be seen as more of like a health thing, and just like, you know, it's just a pill I take or an injection I get to manage my reproductive health, and it would just normalize it. I think that would have so many positive repercussions for women, and like yeah, those stigmas shouldn't be there anyway, but they are, and I think we'll just take whatever we can get. And like if men can be part of normalizing that, I think that can only have good repercussions for women. So I think that would be amazing. And I think it's just again really important to stress that like men's reproductive health and their bodily autonomy will never be under threat. Like women, like more and more and more, unfortunately, women's right to choose and what they can do with their body is under threat. Access to abortion, access to morning after pills, they're under so much threat. So like we actually actively need more men to get involved in this. A lot of women might not have any access to some of these things in a few years' time, so we actually do need men to get involved if we don't want to have loads of unplanned pregnancies. So again, this is just a time for you to all use your privilege and to fight for something. I think it'll just have good repercussions. I think it'll normalize birth control. It will, you know, make it seem like it's not this like big, outrageous, controversial thing. You know, if men are taking, it's like, oh well, I suppose it's not that too bad for women to take either. And I think it can just only be good. So yeah, I'm very passionate about this. I hope I've kind of managed to convince you as to, you know, why we need it and why it can, you know, be good. And yeah, I hope I've managed to convince you in some way, shape or form. So that is this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. I would love if you subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video, because there's so much more like it. I talk about all different kinds of things. And I mean, if you've heard of any other kind of studies done or any other types of male birth control, comment down below, or if you have any questions, I'd be happy to chat. So yeah, I will see you in next week's video, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!